Here we are. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Worldhoppers collaborative channel, where we talk all things, usually books, sometimes adaptations, which is what we're doing today. And a reminder that all proceeds from ad revenue and merch sales, linked down below, goes to charity. So we are all here to talk about House of the Dragon. And for any viewers, this will be spoiler free. Some of us have read the book, some of us have not. And so for people in this video, as well as for you, the audience, we're not going to be spoiling any things to happen in the future or potential things to happen in the future from the book. So there's that. Yeah, I think firstly, I did have a prompt for this, but I think we all are Team Black. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think the show makes you want to be Team Black. I
Yeah,
think it's
like-
very obvious.
There is no other team. What are you talking about?
If you're Team Green, sorry, you've got no friends here.
you can leave now.
If you're Team Green, you're just being the devil's advocate. You just want to rock the boat.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand.
You're
You
being
just want to
difficult.
be that person.
It's like rooting for the Lannisters in season 1.
Yeah. Like, you just want to go against the grain a little bit, don't you? You're a rebel.
Oh, are Game of Thrones show and Song of Ice and Fire book stuff fair game, Jashana?
I think so.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Unless because like we were saying, there's something from the show from Game of Thrones that does spoil something for House of the Dragon. We won't talk about that, obviously, but yeah, I think so. Because I mean, kind of have to a little bit with the first prompt of how did we feel coming into the show? Because I know there were mixed feelings from a lot of the Game of Thrones fandom about the idea of even having more shows. So how did we feel? We can just go around. So Vish, you can answer first.
I think I'm the odd one out. I think Jashana knows this. That I was just okay with season 8. It wasn't horrible, but thinking about it now, I should definitely rewatch it to see how I feel about it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't bad, but I was also like kind of wary about how House of the Dragon will go, as is everyone. So I was very pleasantly surprised at how the show did.
Yeah.
It was very, very good, obviously.
you liked it.
Yeah. I think
All right, cool.
everyone's like wary about because of season 8. And I don't think a lot of people actually like watched the show until like other people watched House of the Dragon, and then all the hype started coming up, and then everyone started watching the show. Yeah, it's
You weren't traumatized.
no.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously, there's one part I was traumatized. And shouldn't have happened. You know what? That's fine. It happened.
It did. How about you, Angela?
Well, so I have a weird relationship with like the source material. So I've read all of everything but Fire and Blood and like what the short story with some weird characters. I've read the main 5 that we have in A Song of Ice and Fire. And I read them with the show. Like I read them before the seasons of the show with them because I wanted to be that person in the room. It was like, well, this scene makes sense because this happened in the book. I wanted to be that person. Because it was in college and stuff like that. It was, the whole event. But I think I think before everyone else got done, like I was starting to get bored with the show around season 5 or something. Mm-hmm. And I think everyone agrees like season 7's when it's like really bad. But I think I was already bored with the books and the show before that. And I found no end in sight. I was like, so just craving any ending. So I was fine with season 8. I could see why people were upset with the journey to get to the ending. But I thought the ending was very telegraphed in the 5th book. So I was just like, I don't think they did it well. I think these people knew how to adapt and not to create original content. And they should have stopped being white men and asked for help. Like there were a lot of things that they should have done to make better art. But I was fine. And then I wasn't going to watch House of the Dragon because I'm like, I don't really care about the Targaryens. Like whatever. And then I think basically Chris and Deshana's Twitter and like everyone else on Twitter, I was like, fine. I'll give it a try. I'll watch it. And I was just obsessed. I was just like, this is great. This is the mess I am here for. Let's go.
I just wanted to add that I felt really, really excited to watch House of the Dragon just so this would happen again. Like everyone
Yes.
And then getting so excited for it and talk about it afterwards.
It's so weird because in my household, so my fiance is a big A Song of Ice and Fire fan. He's read House of the Dragon. he was so upset at 8, even with all the hype. He will not watch House of the Dragon. I might get him to watch it when season 2 comes out, but even me telling him like, hey, not a big fan, loving the show, he will not, and like he's that type of stubborn, so it's just not happening.
He'll come around.
Yeah, it will.
Someday.
I don't know, but it's just one of those things where it's so weird because I am, in theory, the lesser fan when it comes to the source material.
Yeah. That's so cool.
He's like too much of a fan. How about you, Ray?
So I was really late to Game of Thrones. Like I didn't watch it until all 8 seasons were out because I was like, I don't know if I really care. And then like my parents would watch it like every week, and they're like, oh, you should come watch it with us. And I'm like, no, I'm good. So I finally started watching it, and I was like, okay, this is actually pretty good. And then obviously season 8 was a little bit of a disappointment, but I was like, when they started advertising House of the Dragon, I was like, oh, I'm definitely gonna watch it. So I mean, yeah, season 8 was disappointing, but coming into this, I was just like curious because I know that I'm never going to read any of the books. And I told Deshauna this. I tried to read something by George R.R. Martin. It put me in a month-long reading slump, so I won't read anything else ever again. But it's funny because like I am like watching it, and then like my boyfriend didn't want to watch Game of Thrones. I eventually got him to watch it, so then he watched House of the Dragon, and then my parents were like, oh, we're just gonna wait until the season's over to watch it. And I'm like, why am I the only one watching it now? I mean, all of you were trying to force me to watch it.
Yeah.
One watching. And then Jess and Robin didn't want to watch House of the Dragon at all. And then Jess watched like 2 episodes and then like stopped. And I was like, I need both of you to watch it now. So I don't know. I'm just interested to see. And I feel like I'm always like asking Deshauna, I'm like, what's happened in the book? Is that how it happened in the book? And Deshaun's like, the book is just rumors. We don't really know. I'm like, I want to know. So I'm enjoying it. Deshauna, I'm probably going to ask you later about the Joffrey thing because I don't remember. I'm enjoying it. I'm just along for the ride.
Yeah.
Nice. Joanna?
So I am, unlike Angela, I'm a very big Targaryen fan. I love the Targaryens. They're so messy. And so I was very excited to get Targaryens. I was excited to get dragons. I was excited I just knew Ramin Djawadi was going to serve the music and it was going to be amazing. But I was wary about, of course, I hated season 8 and I was scared about the time jumps. I didn't know if they were going to do it well, how it was going to come across. So going in, I was like, okay, we'll see. Let's not get our hopes up too high. And then now
were you not at all nervous about the dragon CGI? Like I was pleasantly surprised, but like season 8 dragon CGI was so bad. And when I trusted them, CGI is bad, I'm just like,
no, I was like, after seeing Witcher season 1, that dragon, it cannot get worse than that. So I was like, you know what?
Yeah, but that's Netflix money. Like we don't know how Netflix is.
I know, but I'd rather have mediocre CGI dragons than no dragons. And I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready to have the Dracarys sounds and everything. I was just so excited, but nervous, but excited.
That makes sense.
I was very hesitant. I have a very strong relationship to A Song of Ice and Fire. It was the series that I grew up with, It was the thing I was reading when I was like 14, 15, kind of like, it was the series I grew like super strong attachment to. And so season 7 and 8 was a disaster for me. And I really felt like it was like watching this thing I loved just be like taken behind the shed and beaten to death in front of me. And there was nothing I could do to stop it. I was just being forced to watch it in real time. And, I couldn't look away either because I felt that if I looked away, I was somehow being unfair to my child. Like the least I could do was just watch. And so when House of the Dragon was announced, I was really not interested. I was like, no, like fool me once, not gonna fool me twice. And then the extended trailer got released from Comic-Con and I watched the trailer and I was like, oh my God, like that looks amazing. Like that, like it was the scene that got me was the scene with Alicent with the knife in the trailer. And I was like, oh, juice. It's juicy. Like it's gonna be good. Like holy crap! And so I just decided to watch the first episode. The first episode hooked me, and I was like, oh. And then my Twitter account just became feral for like 10 weeks.
Did you read the books before the show was an adaptation?
I'm sorry.
Did you read the books before it was an adaptation, like Game of Thrones?
Yes. Yeah.
That's awesome. Like I don't meet many people who read the books that are in our generation before the show.
before it was even like a
Yeah, my
thing.
dad had read the first one and he was like obsessed, and he'd gotten it from the library and he just wanted anybody to talk about it to, like anybody. So he was like, "You, my 14-year-old kid, you gotta read this, like so I can have somebody to talk about this with." And so I became
Yeah, because I thought we were like kind of close in age. It's like, man, those shows didn't come out till I was like 18. So
yeah.
Too funny. Yeah, I was very wary. I also didn't start watching Game of Thrones until after season 4 was out, and I don't know why. I just was like, I don't know. I like didn't have HBO and just didn't care. I don't know. I had never read the books or anything.
Shauna, no one had HBO. None of us watched it.
But I started a new job, and my coworkers and I were talking one time, and we were talking about Lord of the Rings, like the movies, the trilogy, and I was like, oh, I love Lord of the Rings, and they watched Game of Thrones and like loved it. They're like, you love Lord of the Rings and you don't watch Game of Thrones? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. They're like, dude, you have to try it. I'm like, okay. So I went home that weekend, and Friday turned on season 1, episode 1, and I friggin' binged all 4 seasons in that weekend. I like barely slept. I like barely left my house. I think I left once to like get food or something. And yeah, I came home. I went to work on Monday, and I was like, "So I'm caught up." They were like, "What? Like you watched all of it?" And I was like, "Yeah."
That's like so many hours. That's so many hours.
I was addicted. I like could not. Like I'd stay up until like 3, 4 in the morning, sleep for like a few hours, get up, get back on the couch, watch.
Don't you love like watching reaction videos and stuff like that?
Oh yes, and I counted once. It was like 55 at the time, and I've found new ones, different channels, like go through the whole series.
I love reaction videos. They're so
good. Oh my God. I'm obsessed. But I've only read the first 2 books in the original series.
Okay.
I have them all and I want to go back, but I haven't read all those, but I've read The World of Ice and Fire, the like big whole history of like Westeros and Essos. And then when Fire and Blood came out, I read that, and then I reread it prior to the show. So like I just love the world a lot. And I didn't hate, like I know a lot of people hated season 7. Also, I found it like, you know, less less stellar than the previous seasons for sure. But I was still like, okay. And then yeah, season 8, I was so like frustrated and just like annoyed because of like, especially when I learned that like they were given money and like, here's a budget to do 3 or 4 more seasons to get where you need to go. And they were like, no. So that just like pissed me off. I was like, these fools, because it could have all made sense. It could have all made sense had we spent
well, they were punished. They lost their jobs.
I'm so like, I never wish ill on anyone, but yeah, I was like, see.
You can't just do A's all year and then get an F on your senior year. That's what happened.
Yep.
Yeah, because I hated it so much. And like there were so many things in, not to talk about a different show, I won't start getting into it, but I watched Rings of Power also. And I was like, what is this? And there were so many scenes in that reminded me of scenes in season 8 of Game of Thrones where I'm like, what is the point of this? This was just stupid. There was no, because up until then, every moment in Game of Thrones, like every scene, like had a purpose. And then that stupid horse scene with Arya. Oh. I will be on my deathbed being annoyed by this stupid scene that served no actual purpose. They're like, oh, it's very deep and meaningful. No, it wasn't. It was so stupid. I cannot. Oh my God. So yeah, I was very wary, but and I was very nervous about like the CGI and stuff. I was like, are they gonna throw enough money at this or like not, because of how season 8? Well, I don't know. So I was very, very nervous, but I knew I was gonna watch it because I'm obsessed with like the lore and everything and the Targaryens. And I was like, oh my God. And I was just so curious to see what they were going to do, because at first I wasn't sure like if it was going to start from like the start of Fire and Blood and like go from there, which is not what it was. And yeah, I was hooked right away for sure.
It's interesting you brought up Rings of Power, because I did basically the same thing with Rings of Power I did with House of the Dragon, where I'm like, I love fantasy. I love big budget fantasy, but both of these worlds are not my favorite. So if the fans or other people are like, this is great television, I will check it out. And that's what happened with House of the Dragon. And no one has told me Rings of Power is great television. Like nobody anywhere has been like, this is fantastic.
Yeah, no. It can be fun if you like love that like world, I guess. But yeah, it was not great television. Unlike House of the Dragon, which was fantastic television. Okay, cool. Next, a little prompt. What were some of our favorite moments from season 1? Vish, did you think of? I know you were like, oh man.
Vish, do you have one?
I have one if Vish doesn't steal it, but we'll see.
Me too, but I know mine's going to be taken by the time.
For me, out of all 10 episodes, the only scene that gave me goosebumps is that last scene with Rhaenyra.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
just standing back and just staring at the camera, and I was like, oh.
It's on.
It is so intense. And I just got goosebumps all over. It's just the acting. It's like amazing. Amazing last scene.
Emma Darcy was amazing. They were just so good for this.
Yeah,
Like,
they were really good.
They were, yeah.
Mine's actually before the big time jump. And I mean, I love a lot of things, but I still think about, I think it's episode 4. It has the brothel and stuff like that. Like just that entire episode, the commentary on those thematic I was like, this is art. I don't understand. This is entertaining. This is thematically rich. I love this acting. I was even like, yeah, this is incest, and this is also a bad power dynamic. I'm whatever.
I'm on board. Yep.
I love it.
Well, because also up to that point, you knew. Well, I mean, I didn't read the book, so I didn't actually know they were going to get married one day. But like, you felt the familial connection, but also that there was this underlying connection, and then like, so it wasn't like it came out of nowhere. It was definitely the ground was laid, even though they didn't spend that many scenes together before that. And I was like, the payoff of these actors. Because that's another thing is I need to stop being mean to Matt Smith. I am nervous about every project he's ever in. I don't know why. And he's always great. Like, he's never bad. He's always fantastic.
Just always wary of him.
I think it's his weird, like, forehead. I don't know why. It's a really bad trait of mine because my first interaction with Matt Smith was when he took over Doctor Who. And that was after David Tennant. And I'm just like, I don't know how I feel. So, anyways, so I think the entirety of episode 4 is just like, maybe not the peak for me per se, but it's something I hold on to and like think about it and like this is the example of why this is like stellar.
So good, yeah. That was a good one.
I don't know if I have a favorite moment, but I do agree with like Vish, that last scene with Rhaenyra after finding out what happened to her son. I was like, oh, shit's about to go down. I cannot wait. But I will say another, not a moment really, but just like a scene where I was like, ooh, that was really well done, was also in that last episode when Vagar's flying over.
Yeah. There's like holy
horror, nightmares.
Huge dragon, and I'm like, where's Vagar? Why can't I gigantic dragon? And then that scene of him flying over, I was like, oh no.
That was also so well done because like I think even I hadn't seen the spoilers, but like I knew it's like, oh, this kid's not making it. There's no universe in which this kid's making it. And even though I knew the end point, I was still just like, I didn't know that was gonna happen though. So the way it happened, I was like, oh, okay.
The sad part is when Arax attacks Vagar, and I'm like, Arax, no, how do you think that? It's like if I go up to this huge person, I'm like, I'm gonna punch you. Like, there's no way you get out of my.
That's basically what happened.
I know dragons and cats are similar creatures, and that's how cats are. Like the little kitten is always attacking the big cat, and it doesn't know it. It's just a dummy.
But also poor Vagar. Like, I mean, she's been through so much. So
yeah, she's been around for a minute.
Yeah.
A minute. How about you, Chris? Or Joanna?
Wait, you skip me and then. Oh, okay, wait, because I'm very passionate about my favorite moments, and that is King Viserys, first of his name, when he walks in and he's like, "Why are we talking about this again? We have settled this already. Stop making me come here. I can't walk." And they take the time with that walk, and that walk you feel every step he takes, and it's just the music and all of it. And then he sits down, and the crown falls, and Daemon puts it out.
That was a really nice moment when
it was amazing.
Yeah.
That was
he did that for Viserys, and then later he did that for Rhaenyra. I'm just like,
I know.
I put the own part.
No, like that's like
It
for
was
me,
so
like
good.
what I've always loved and hated about all of A Song of Ice and Fire and Westeros is like, oh, a moment of joy where what I want to have happen happens. So how is this all going to get messed up for me in the next 40 minutes? Like,
That's always the
Precisely.
question.
It's all gonna get ripped away real quick.
Yep.
Yeah. Real
I
fast.
had a favorite moment, I think, from every episode. Like, there was not a single episode I watched where there wasn't a moment for me where I was like, "Oh, this is high art." Like they went there. I think for me, the first episode, the intersplicing of the tourney between Sir Kristen Cole and Damon with Emma bleeding out in childbirth was fantastic. And it's gory and it's triggering and upsetting, but I think that was the moment for me where I was like, oh, this show is serious about its themes. Like here we have like this just useless blood sacrifice for male primogeniture interspliced with these men just throwing their lives away that the women have paid dearly for, like for nothing. And that for me, it was like, oh, they're doing it, because I was interested to see just how thematically they were going to take it, how seriously they were going to take it as, a statement on something. And that for me was just, I was sold. Like, second it happened, I was like, this is great. And then the other like favorite moment for me has to be the scene between Alicent and Rhaenyra in episode 7 when Alicent goes at her with the knife. It's just this, you feel this palpable sense of rage the whole time, and the dialogue in that scene, Alicent when she was like saying about how and now you take my son's eye, and to even this you feel entitled. It's just like, oh my gosh, it's so ripping, and like I can't even like every time I rewatch it, it just gives me chills. Like that moment of silence before she like goes up to Viserys and grabs the knife. Every aspect of that scene is just like,
yeah.
And wasn't it with the special knife? Like, wasn't it the prophecy knife too? Like, it's like
I loved it. I loved it because like there was a moment in the scene where the knife like catches in the firelight.
Yes.
And like Rhaenyra looks at it, and it's like, here is Alicent wielding a blade that she does not understand the significance or power of. And that's the whole point of the show. It's so good.
Yeah. It was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That line too that Rhaenyra says there, every like reaction I've watched, they're just like, oh man, that line. Now they see you for who you are.
It was really fantastic stuff, and the whole sequence, it was so well choreographed, and it was just every actor at the top of their game. Really, really fantastic stuff to watch.
And then, of course, Aegon in that scene when Aemond is like, "It was Aegon." He's like, "Me?" Of course, he's the only idiot who's like, "Oh."
He's like, well, maybe it was me, but we all talk about this.
Yeah.
It's like, thanks, brother. By the way, for throwing me under the bus.
It was so good. It was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really great. I feel like I love that. So, yeah, there's so many scenes that like were so good that I'm like, oh, that was like peak television right here and like entertaining and great. But I feel like the Viserys entering the throne room was, I think, the first moment that I got like choked up. It was, I mean, that whole thing, the music, like you said, like the freaking the music. I was just like, oh, he came for her. He came for his daughter. Oh my god! And
because you have that scene right before, when she tells him, "Come stand up for me," and I'm like, how have you seen him?
Yeah, and then when he drops the crown, and I was like, oh no, come on! And then when Damon picks it up, I immediately was like, oh god, oh, he doesn't want help except for his brother. Oh my god! He gets to put the crown on him. Like I was stupidly like emotional about it. Because it was just so beautiful. And I just loved that he did that, like, came and showed up for her and everything. And that whole, thing. Because then Rhaenys being like, well, actually, yeah, I think this is a great plan. I was like, oh, hell yeah.
Say it.
And then,
never knowing.
That say it line. Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Chilling.
It was so good. And the speech he gave at dinner, that was so beautiful.
That whole scene too, when he's sitting there and the music is going and he's looking around and everyone's just enjoying themselves. I was like, oh, he gets this beautiful last moment. It's not gonna last, but it's really sweet.
But Angela was saying.
the second he's gone, it goes ugly, and you just
Yeah.
know how tenuous this piece is being held together. It's
And you see that it's actually like Rhaenyra and Alicent had like a moment where they're like, maybe we could reconcile.
Yeah.
That's ending short, yes, reconcile. And then you see like, no, it's your hatred has gone, trickled down to your children, and you've made them hate each other so much that there is no way back now.
Yeah, I just loved all of that. I mean, but yeah, so many. Also, when Eric shows, or Arik, what the freaking guy with the same name as his brother, when he shows up with the crown too, that gave me chills. I was like, oh my god, he's freaking so loyal. Yes, I love this. I'm so jazzed.
when they fake the death of Rhaenyra's first husband, that was really fun.
Oh yeah, I was mad for a second.
Well, I was confused because I'm like, okay, this is totally something Daemon would do, but this is not something I think based off what I know Rhaenyra would do yet. Like we're not there yet. And then
and then watching it back and like in all the reactions I watched, like watching it back, the words they're saying, I'm like, oh yeah, they're not saying like we're actually gonna do this, but like you think they are. Yeah. So
the second he like attacked some random servant in the hallway, I was like, what?
Yeah,
I was like, what's going on here? Like,
what are we doing? Yeah, and then I was like, oh, I'm so happy they didn't kill anyone. Well, I'm like, well, they killed someone, but they didn't kill Leonor.
There we go.
This show makes us forget about it doesn't make us forget about the common man, but it gets us completely embroiled in all of the
which makes sense.
There's some like great moments where they do kind of force you to remember it. Like, there's
when Rhaenys is there.
That was really great. I love that. But I also love, and I think it's in episode 3, where there's the big sequence about the crab feeder. At the very beginning of the episode, there's like someone being tortured, and he's like begging for Daemon to save him. And then Daemon's dragon just tramples him, you know?
I think that was episode 2, actually.
Was it? Okay.
I think it's episode 2.
Yeah.
I think that's
was
awesome.
A prime example of we don't actually care about you guys.
Yeah, exactly. These commoners putting their faith. Yeah, that was great.
You know what moment got me really choked up? It was not the opening scene, not the Council of 101, but the opening scene when we have Syrax flying over King's Landing.
Oh, yeah.
And I just like with the music and seeing King's Landing and seeing a dragon flying over King's Landing without torching it and without having everyone be scared. I was like, I started crying the second that happened. I was like, oh my gosh, this is not good for me. Like if I'm crying at this scene.
You're like, it's a dragon. Oh,
it's a dragon.
It's so great though.
It was really cool to see too, because I think in the main series and in the main television series, Targaryens are always referenced with this like kind of vile, madness and all this different stuff. And then to kind of see like how, the realm was at peace and like actually all this like Targaryen regalia and stuff like decorated the city, and it looks so like divine. And I don't know, like it was really interesting to see like, how warped the sense of Targaryen history got after several hundred years.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved it.
Something that was super well done in like its ominous tone, because like I think the first episode you see him with the gout starting to form and stuff, and like that was just so creepy. And like every time with the chair, I was like, I don't love this. I don't know where this is going, but I don't love this. And then also how they kind of always mention in the background like we're not getting as many dragons, and we know in like Song of Ice and Fire, magic has been leaving the land, and each generation of dragons was smaller and smaller, and like that type of like background world building ominous thing was I thought really well laced in. It's not like a moment, but it's something that like was one of those things that kept me watching.
Yeah. Really good.
The doomsday feeling. All right, who is our favorite character or characters? Vish.
At first, it was Kid Rhaenyra, and then after a couple of days after the last episode, I think it's still Rhaenyra.
You can say Rhaenyra. Like.
Yeah. Because of the time jump, you can see the difference between Kid Rhaenyra and grown Rhaenyra for sure. So that's why I was like, ooh, I don't know, but yes, it's Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
I mean, the first moment that I like genuinely loved her and admired her is when she gave birth to that baby. When she just started walking up the stairs to what a great moment.
I think at that moment when I watched that, I messaged both you, Joshana, and you, Vish, and I just started yelling at you.
Yes.
Like, you stupid Alicent! But that's for the next question.
I was like, what? And then obviously in the last episode where she had a miscarriage as well, and she still carried on.
Yeah.
Oh,
She's a tough
That
cookie.
scene was disgusting, by the way.
Oh yeah,
It
obviously.
was a lot. It was a lot. Yeah.
I like that scene where also like she was in pain, but then also her dragon was in also like the feelings as well. That's really cool.
Yeah, she's a good
my
character.
my basic answer is also Rhaenyra, but I'll say for the sake of talking about more characters because they're all worth talking about, the biggest glow up for me was Viserys.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, I think he was acted perfectly like the entire time, but in terms of like me caring about him and like being frustrated or rooting for him, like when you first meet him and like how naive he is and just like everything he's doing, like, and two, when he dies, I'm like, okay, you are messy, but like I don't hate you as much as I actually thought I was going to hate you, and that's like very impressive. So he's my biggest glow up. I don't really think he's a favorite. Like I do think the girl in me who read a lot of YA novels growing up, Damon is pretty great. Like, should I be rooting for him? No, but I was conditioned in a certain way.
I was conditioned character. Yeah.
We all had those weird alpha heroes in every single YA romance. So,
yep.
Funny.
I think yeah, my favorite character is also Rhaenyra. I especially did like her when in like the earlier seasons with the younger actress. Even as a teenager, and she doesn't really want to be the heir, but then she's like starting to understand the importance of it, and it's her duty and all of these things. And so I appreciated that. And I also kind of like Rhaenys. And then going back to favorite moments, when Aegon has his like coronation or whatever, and then she comes in with her dragon, and I'm like, is she gonna do it? Is she gonna set it on fire? And then
say it.
Yeah, right. But that was also a really good moment. I don't know. I feel like after Game of Thrones, and because I was so late to the game, everybody's like, don't get attached to any characters. So I'm just like keeping everybody at an arm.
Yeah.
That's a safe bet.
It is.
With this world. Yeah. Are you gonna have a different answer, Joanna?
Yeah, I mean, I love.
Are you gonna surprise us?
Plato Hightower, and what's his name? Krispy Kreme. Those are my favorites. No, my favorites are of course Rhaenyra. I love her. But Daemon and Aemond are like my precious children that I adore, and I love them with all my heart. I will say, surprisingly, like you said about Viserys, I was surprised, and surprisingly, I really like Helena. The show Helena is so interesting. With all her prophecies, but I mean Daemon and Aemond are just, I love them. But Daemon, if I have to pick, because I'm not Team Green, so
yeah,
none of that.
I mean, I think Rhaenyra for me is the favorite, as far as who I emotionally cared about the most. But there were so many fascinating ones to watch on screen. I really liked Lionel Strong. He was a character that I could really respect, He seemed, he wasn't supportive of Rhaenyra, but he also wasn't vicious or self-interested. He seemed to have a really good head on his shoulders, and I thought he was the best hand of the king, that we've 100%. Seen. I think even including Game of Thrones hands,
he was very like selfless with his advice.
Yes.
Yeah, he was doing his job.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Yeah. Just wild concept for a hand of the king.
Seeing just like a competent bureaucrat in the Game of Thrones world was really nice.
Like, wait a minute.
Again, you just want to see something done well until it's not anymore. Like that's the roller coaster we're on.
He was really good. I loved Rhaenys. I loved the dynamic between Rhaenys and Corlys. I thought so many of the Valyrian actors were phenomenal. I loved the actress for Lena. I thought she did so good. And it's a shame that we didn't get a ton of time with her, but she was really a fantastic actress.
Didn't we get 3 actresses for Lena, or am I mixing her up?
I'm thinking of the adult Lena.
Okay.
Yeah, who we only got 1 episode out of, but I thought that whole story there was beautiful and very well acted and really great. But I mean, Rhaenyra's got to be the one that I was the most emotionally compelled by. Her and Viserys. I mean, to watch episode 8 and to see that final moments with Viserys was just really gut-wrenching.
Yeah, it definitely was. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, Rhaenyra is probably my favorite too. And I love her because she reminds me in some ways of, because she's like very, very strong and kind of like a little bit of a rebel and I do what I want type of thing, but not like as, I guess, like overt or in your face as like an Arya Stark character that's just like, I'm a fight and do stuff, which I love Arya, don't get me wrong. But she reminded me more of like a Marjorie Tyrell of like the more elegant and classy or whatever, like ladylike, but also like I will do what I got to do type of thing, but not like maliciously. And that's what I like her. And that's
I mean,
how
you
was
really
felt.
see that in like episode 10, how she's just like, we're not going to cause bloodshed just needlessly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like she has ambition and she wants to be the heir eventually. And like she has all these desires, but like she's not willing to just crap all over everyone to do so and just be like, whatever. So I love her so much. And yeah, man, I was so Lionel Strong. I was like, he's such a good hand.
And Harwin also. I wish we'd had more breakbones. Like I wish we'd seen him longer.
I really wish we had also. Yeah, that was a bummer. He was good though. And yeah, I think Rhaenys is probably one of my other favorites. I loved her. And yeah, I loved her dynamic with Corlys. Man, when Alicent was like, when she was prisoner and she's like, oh, you want to be queen. I'm like, you're not as smart as you think you are. She's like, I'm being so cunning right now. And Rhaenys is like, yeah, I don't care.
The second she was like, started criticizing Corlys in that scene, I was like, oh, you really messed up.
Yeah. I'm like, this is like Rhaenys stand by your man, Velaryon right now. Gonna convince her to go against what he says or to make a decision without like talking to him. Like this is not gonna happen. So yeah, I really like, because even though they like didn't agree all the time and everything, but like you could see their like really deep respect and like love for each other and like their deep desire to like be a strong united front, like in front of other people, you know.
They also seemed like the most like of all the kind of adult couples we saw, the most like actually just romantic. Like like there was like like there was a scene where he was like lusting after her and stuff. I was like, oh, I feel the chemistry, you know, like
yeah. I definitely liked it. And I thought it was favorite moment type of stuff again, but like I just thought it was so interesting, like the scene where Viserys goes to Driftmark to be like, hey, let's marry our kids, like proposing this betrothal, and he's all like, oh, and they're like, oh, do you need a chair? And then she just busts in like, cousin. And I'm like, man, the coulda woulda shoulda of if she had been chosen to rule, like she would have been healthier longer, she would have lived longer, her reign would have been longer, and like I think she would have been a bit stronger of a ruler making decisions. But I did love Varys's like journey also, and I really liked him by the end. I mean, I didn't like dislike him initially, but he was just kind of like, hey, you're not that great.
He was very frustrating, I think. He was just like, he just really had blinders on, and I'm just like, I need you to actually understand who you're around.
Yeah. And as it went on, like, I don't know, seeing him like get the tea ordered for her, I'm like, oh, he knows she's full of it. But like, even though you know that he like doesn't believe her, he still like rides so hard for his daughter.
Yeah.
When he's like, my only daughter, and I'm like, you're right, the others don't exist.
Basically how he acted. And yeah, I just love that he like, and the scene too when Otto tells him like, oh, she was out last night, she was seen, and he's just like, you got people spying on her, just waiting for her to mess up, like. And even though she did mess up and he believed that she did, he still was like, all right, get out of here, man.
That episode 4 moment was also when I started liking Viserys more. Episode 4 had a lot of stuff for me.
It was such a great episode.
But also, like,
and I just like by the end I just felt so bad for him. I'm like, this man just wants everybody to get along for a second.
And
poor old man.
The way he looked so like a corpse by the end.
It was weird seeing, like, I saw a couple clips on Twitter of like behind the scenes where he was like dancing around and doing like voguing like with that cane and stuff. I'm like, man, he looked like an actual dying person.
You know, also that scene where he talks to, I think it's Lionel, right? Yeah, I think so. When he's like, how will I be remembered? What will people say of me? Like, because you have to remember, he comes right after Jaehaerys, and like that was like the king that kept the peace for so long and stuff. And it's just like, am I even gonna be? No, yes, we love you forever. Like, we love you. Don't you worry.
Except like then people reminded me that Daenerys's brother's name was Viserys. I'm like, that's the Viserys I remember.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
The
That guy.
far, the subpar Viserys.
Shoshana, did you have a least favorite moments question? I don't remember.
Not a least favorite moments, but we can do that, yeah. If we want to do that next, least favorite moments.
No.
Yeah.
Well, one last thing I like wanted to comment on with like Rhaenys and Rhaenyra and Viserys, it's like it really like thematically, and I think it does it both very loudly and subtly. Is like, okay, we all have these misconceptions that gender matters for leadership, and gender does not matter for leadership. You can be a bad leader or a great leader regardless, and also showing how calm and collected and thoughtful Rhaenys and Rhaenyra are, and how Viserys, who is well intentioned, he's definitely like our moderate candidate who's just like trying to toe the line and it like doesn't work out, you know? Like I just thought like there's a lot of stuff you can parse and make conclusions from, which I think makes it really thematically rich, and it's all because of that character work.
Yeah. It's top notch. Did we want to do favorite or least favorite moments? Yeah.
Well, I don't have our least favorite character.
I mean,
yeah, okay, we can do we can least favorite moments could be kind of the last one too. So yeah, least favorite character.
I mean, everyone's gonna have the same answer, so
yeah,
obviously maybe not.
I don't care about Kristen Cole. He's just whatever. We don't have enough screen time for him, so I'm just like, whatever, it's fine. But Allison, truly hate her. But also, obviously, Aegon. Yeah. Just because his insecure butt can't be there.
We've seen a lot of his butts.
It excuses him to do all the horrible things that he has done.
What a piece of trash.
And then he has the nerve to like not. Well, I know obviously he's not meant to be the heir, but he's just sitting there asking his mother, "It's like, will I really make a good heir? No, obviously not." Nope. But you know what? You're all she's got. So
literally.
Yeah. Yeah, I do not like him whatsoever. I think he does not look the right age as well. Compared to
that's weird. Yeah,
the adult.
Yeah, very weird. I'm like, why does Aemon look like 6 years older than you do?
However, his coronation scene was amazing. Like that walk he takes from the moment where he steps on, where he's like, I don't want to do this. And then the moment where he like turns around with his sword, I'm like, that actor had it all on his face, and it was chef's kiss amazing. I loved it.
I love when people compare it to like The Boys, like when the guy gets cheered in like with those gifs and memes.
Yeah. Like, Homelander or whatever. Yeah.
I just rolled my eyes the entire time.
Yeah, you hate him.
Full of confidence. I was like, yeah, okay, sure. Because you're here and there's a crown on your head doesn't mean that you're
not just any crown, the Conqueror's crown and his sword. So, yeah.
This guy.
I dislike Aegon a fair bit because I hate bullies, and I think like there's a lot of like adult bullying going on, but like he's like the childhood bully, and I just like despise that. Like that will never not get a visceral reaction from me.
Yeah.
And then obviously that's where Aemon learns it from. And like, I think Aemon could have been like a reasonable, like, and he is like a fascinating character to like interact with. I don't like hate him, but like, he's also like, he's cruel as well. But my least favorite from episode 1 was Hightower, the Hand. And like, because of how he manipulates his daughter, like Alicent becomes who she is because of her upbringing. And I hate him.
Because of him. Yeah. 100% because of him. Yeah. He set her up. So like
you don't wear your mother's dresses. Gross.
It's so gross. It was so manipulative. I disliked that with everything. And then also he was just not good at his job.
Yeah.
That's what I kept seeing people on Twitter comparing him to Tywin Lannister. And I was like, no. Where?
Exactly.
Where? No. Like he wishes. He's trying, but he can't. Like he's not that freaking clever. Are you kidding me? He's not even doing anything other than shoving his daughter at the king.
Yeah, no, it reminds me almost as much as how much I hate Kyle Haven from Live Ship. And it's the same type of thing where it's like, I hate how you treat your family. And also, you think you're good at what you're doing, and you're just so bad at things. You do not understand. Yeah. You are failing.
You're not even good at this.
So, I mean, but I honestly could hate the entire Team Green cast fairly easily. Like, it's really not hard to make me dislike all of them. Because they're also, like, the children at every dinner. I'm like, how are you not polite? Like, what is happening?
Yeah, no manners. No manners.
No education.
I think my least favorite characters are obviously Alicent and Sir Kristen Cole. And like I didn't dislike him in the beginning, but then after the whole thing with Rhaenyra, and I was just like, you didn't have to
True incel behavior.
with her, but you did. That's on you. But I feel like with Alicent, it's like every time, like the fact that they were friends, which apparently was not in the book, right?
Yeah, no, when they were, they like knew each other, but they weren't best friends.
Making them be best friends, and then the whole thing with her having to marry the king, and like I just feel like at every turn, Alicent could like not instigate another problem with Rhaenyra. She does it every single time, and then like at was it the last episode or the second to last episode where they have that moment and it looks like they're going to reconcile, and then Alicent goes and fucks it up again, and I'm just like, girl, aren't you tired? I'm tired of watching you. Like, Jesus Christ. And I like don't dislike Aemon, but I want to, but I don't, and I'm just like, we'll see what happens. I don't know.
Alicent's also frustrating because she has like enough brain cells to be dangerous, but not enough to like follow through even on her own intentions. Like in episode 9, she's like, "Well, wait, no, we're not going to kill Rhaenyra," and I'm like, "How do you think coups work?"
She's dumb.
Yeah, it's like that scene when she's talking to Rhaenys and she's spouting all this nonsense to her, and she's clever, smart. She's not. She's really not smart. No,
not at all.
I feel like she's also being influenced by everyone around her.
Oh yeah, she's so like easily manipulated and easily influenced,
and like, so self-righteous. You go ahead and you start this whole shindig because you think that Rhaenyra slept with someone, and then of course Krispy Kreme goes ahead and is like, "Yes, it was me, Mario." No, and then okay, you're so self-righteous, and yet Larys and his feet. What's this?
Yeah.
You hypocrite! I hate her.
Why do you call him Krispy Kreme? I have to know.
Oh, I saw this somewhere online. Someone would be like, "Oh, Krispy Kreme," and I was like, "This is a perfect name for him." I don't know, and it just stuck.
Didn't
Damon call them? It's because of States. I'm just confused.
It's because of Damon. Because in the episode when they're on the bridge, he's like, "And who are you again, Crispin?" And then people were like, "Krispy Kreme," and that's how it went.
I love it.
I always forget his real name now because I just call him Krispy Kreme all the time. So. Yeah. So I hate Alicent clearly, as you saw. Like it's like I'm like literally I feel everything boiling inside of me talking about her. Like I hate her. But as he is now known, Plotto Hightower, like he is the worst. He is the worst. Like even in the last episode when Alicent tries to stand up to him and he's like, "You remind me of your mother in certain lights." Like God. Ew, just die. Just please do us all a favor and go in the dragon pit and be a snack for Cyrax or so. That would be nice. I hate
Love it.
I think I'm gonna be basic and say Alicent as well. But she's kind of this hate. I think what makes her such a hateable villain is kind of the same thing that people always talk about with like why Dolores Umbridge always sticks out to people when they read Harry Potter, is because she has the kind of villainous qualities that we recognize in everyday people, where she wants to constantly feel self-righteous about her actions. You know, like that scene when she thinks that Viserys is telling her that Aegon is to be king. It's so obvious that she's deluding herself in that moment. Like I heard a lot of people calling it a miscommunication trope, but I didn't really feel that way because I felt like she was clearly trying to latch on to bits of information so that she could do what
she wanted to hear.
Yes. Yeah. She wanted to do what she had always planned on doing while feeling like she had a righteous element to it. And she couldn't sit there after having a nice dinner with Rhaenyra and look herself in the mirror and take down Rhaenyra's family. So she had to find this crumb to allow herself to go back to those that sense of jealousy and bitterness. And that's the type of thing that I think we recognize in everyday people that makes them so frustrating. And then when she does it again when she's at the council, the Green Council, and she's like, am I to believe that the men of this council have been trying to install my son as king? It's like, girl, you literally interrupted one of your son's window sessions to tell him that he would be king. So don't act all innocent here.
Window sessions.
So surprised.
Window sessions.
So that to me, because you can just see this kind of warped sense of delusion with her all the time, and that's so frustrating. And then, of course, Kristen Cole is such a frustrating character because of the same thing. It's like he's like one of those people that, like, I don't know, finds Christianity in their mid-30s and like
goes ham.
like goes insane with the self-righteousness of it. Like that's how I felt with him because, like, I mean, he's just so violent, and yet he constantly feels like he's justified. Like that scene in episode 7, he was going for that kid. Like if you watch where he's running to, like he was running behind Allison. Like he's not going. I was getting in fights with people on Twitter. They were like, "Oh, he was just trying to protect Allison." I was like, "He was not.
He was going around.
He was going around to get to that little kid and take out an eye." Like because he likes to take. He likes to take advantage of these chaotic situations, just like the wedding, just like Lord Beesbury.
And I truly didn't understand his overreaction to someone he knew was going to be heir, and that he's not a good match for the heir of a kingdom for marriage. Like I feel like he had to know that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like,
yeah,
but you'll be my main person that I'm with. Like I care about you. I want to be with you, but I have to, for political reasons, do this. That felt like a very reasonable proposition from Rhaenyra, and he just was like, I'm not going to be your whore. I'm just like, calm down.
He just thought he was that good in bed that she would give up a whole kingdom and crown.
I was like so frustrated with that scene too, because like I was like, he doesn't actually love her. Like it's not about love. He says it in that moment, like my cloak is soiled though, and if we get married, it'll fix it. It's like that's all he cared about. All he cared about was his honor and everything, and like I can't with
and
it.
It had to have been partially because the power dynamics were weird, and in a weird way, even for this patriarchal kingdom, where he was actually the one that was probably like the scene is done in a way where you feel like they're both consensual the whole time, but it's still a weird power dynamic of her, having sex with her bodyguard. Like it's still weird.
I just hate too though. Like someone was yelling at me in my one video where I was ranting about it. That scene, because I'm like, he had so many opportunities to be like, you know what, I'm gonna go back to my post actually. Like you're drunk, he could have, and like because she didn't like threaten him with someone was like, well, he didn't know if she would like then do something like, I'm like, she had said nothing to indicate that she was gonna like get back at him if he didn't agree to this. Like she wasn't threatening him, she wasn't like blackmailing him or twisting his arm. He could have just been like, keep my helmet, I'm going outside.
Right.
And so many times it was like she stepped in front of him. I'm like, she's a little girl. He could easily walk around.
He's a captain of the. No, not the captain.
And I think because he let himself succumb to that, and he didn't have control in his head, he felt like I need to find control. I need to set
he was just mad at himself.
This relationship.
Yeah. He was
and
mad
that's
at
removing her crown from her.
He's
just like everything Chris said. He's just like the worst of the average person in society.
Yeah.
I can't.
When he's like, every woman deserves to be talked of with reverence, and then he calls, and I'm like, you.
He had a whole 2 full minutes of Rhaenyra just undressing him, and he's just standing there.
Yeah,
he had every opportunity.
It took a while to get all that armor off.
Sudden situation that she kind of. Whatever it was, I was just like, no, he had so many, and that's why I think he was so mad.
I think he's just
mad at himself.
Yeah.
Like deal with you got to deal with that on your own. Go talk to your therapist about it, sir. Don't
take it out on little children in the yard.
Like hating her for so long. I'm just like, this is true incel behavior right now.
Really taking it out on, like he was the adult bully who was obviously favoring some students over others, and I was just
But did you see the amazing parallel in the Hunt for Aegon when Aemond is dressed the way Daemon was dressed in that when they went to the brothel, and then Kristen, not Crispy, Kristen was dressed the way Rhaenyra was dressed. And I'm like, yeah, you're dressed like the people you're obsessed with. Like, just get over yourselves, people. Like, geez.
Team Green is just team delusion.
Exactly. Thank you.
Team green, it has to be like, I know green is the color for Hightower or whatever, but it's the color of envy as well. Mm-hmm. Like that symbolism, it's on the nose.
It's there. Yeah, I feel like Alicent, I hate her also, but I honestly think I hate Kristen more because he's so frustrating to me. And she's
Yeah.
frustrating to me too, but he's like mad and like I have a visceral, and then he just gets away with everything, just slaughtering people on a whim, and everyone's like, yeah, that's cool. I'm like, what? How is this
hmm
man getting away? I can't. And he's just
Right,
unhinged. Like he's
yeah.
just an unhinged lunatic to me.
Because
No, like
he's done this of his own volition, but then
Yeah.
with Alicent, she's just been manipulating everything.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is just pure Kristen.
I had like some sympathy for him going into episode 5, you know? And I was watching the episode 5 with my parents, and there was that moment when Joffrey Lonmouth was kind of goading him a little bit. And I was like, I remember, and at this point, I had not read like the chapters in Fire and Blood about, you know, so I had no idea what was going to happen. And I remember I told my parents we were watching it together. I was like, oh my God, they're about to make a good man snap, you know, like this is going to be bad. And then like he does what he does to Joffrey Lonmouth, and we see like the face pudding sliding to the floor.
Yeah, ugh.
And I was like, oh, I don't think this guy is very redeemable. I was like, that was a bit much even for what I was
Bit of an
expecting.
overreaction.
Yeah.
Just a smidge.
Another great moment of claustrophobia. There were lots of good moments of claustrophobia.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That dinner was so full of tension too. When Damon walks in, like, I'm exiled, but what you gonna do?
Yeah.
I would like to reframe my favorite moment. I forgot there was ballroom politics in this season, and ballroom politics is my favorite thing. And that entire dance, that was very good.
Take me to
That was-
Dragonstone and make me your wife. I was like,
Yes, he's your uncle, but yes, let's do it.
And he has that like edgelord haircut at the time. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
With Royce, right? That's his name. When he's like, yeah, your wife is dead. He's like, so what? Very sad. Moving on. Oh, by the way, I want my inheritance.
Positively bereft.
dude.
Does not care one bit. Oh man.
Nope.
And everyone stood for Alicent when she walked in. He's
Ugh.
just sat there.
He
Yeah,
was
he
like,
did not move.
nah.
Did not care one bit. Dude, someone in one of my videos had a theory that one of Alicent's kids was Damon's, and I was like, what show are you watching?
What?
Yeah, Aemond. That Aemond looks like.
Yeah, they were
Also
trying to.
the
Yeah,
name,
there was
you
like
know?
a theory going around, I guess, that like
I've seen it.
he
No.
like had an affair, and I'm like,
there
there's
was
been
no chemistry
literally
there.
yeah, there's been nothing. The only interaction they ever had was him asking for her favor to spite her dad in the first episode. Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
that's like really the only time I think we saw them like
Yeah.
interact. Really,
Yeah.
I'm like there's nothing here to make you think this. You're reaching. We're reaching now. Okay, the final one is if there are any. What like are your biggest qualms, biggest issues you may have with how they did certain things? Again, without giving spoilers for future stuff, but and maybe you don't have any. So then it could be like a least favorite moment, I guess. So, yeah.
I guess with the whole like falling out with Alicent and Kristen Cole as well, that like that episode where everything happened, where she tells him what happens and then they both get mad at Rhaenyra. I feel like that was just so sudden and with no logic whatsoever. Because again, they're both delusional. I get it. But, like I didn't like that at all. I was like, why? What's the reason? You're both hypocrites.
Yeah,
I feel like that was my least favorite, I guess. But everything else
makes sense.
Mine's more of like a technical thing, and it was only for one episode, and it was the episode with the funeral. I didn't have as many complaints about the lighting, but I know a lot of people had issues with the lighting of the
Mine was
beach scene.
terrible.
My issue was that for some reason the sound engineering was really rough on that episode. Like I couldn't hear anything. I had to like
Oh,
put on
yeah.
my captions, which I
That
never
whole first
usually
part.
had to do for this show. So that's like a technical thing where I'm just like, sometimes it's okay to let your scene be seen. Like when you go to see a play, they don't have to make the room dark for you to know it's nighttime. Like we can do some stuff here. Like it's
Yeah.
okay. And I do think so, not knowing anything about the book, and I should have like probably guessed that this was like not a thing that was ever going to develop because of when this world was created and how closely it's supposed to parallel our own in many ways. But when we first meet Alicent and Rhaenyra as friends, like maybe I was delusional, but I felt like chemistry between them, and I'm like, they're more
No,
than
yeah.
friends. Why
Yeah.
was this never explored?
Yeah.
And like obviously that's not in the book, and like you probably couldn't go that way, especially with what I know about Alicent now. She's definitely like, even if she had those thoughts, clutch my pearls would never do it. But I was just like, man, it would have been cool. Like I would have, that would have been fun mess. Well, the way they looked at each other, and like it felt more than
Yeah.
childhood friends. So
No,
that was a
And I think you can still read. I read it that way. Like I read
Yeah.
the fact that they had a crush on each other.
So did I.
You know, I didn't read that they'd ever acted on it in any meaningful way, but I definitely read into it that they had a crush on each other.
Yeah. So I think that was just like ground that was teased to me, but never like got fully like fleshed out. And I think like, especially because they chose, I heard, to go a slightly different route with their character development and interaction, to go from friends to enemies sort of thing, instead of just being like wicked
Enemies.
stepmother mode or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like, I felt like there was some stuff there that could have been developed more, other than just like having episode 5 be quick and then just be like, and then the time skip happens. Like, I get it. Everything else was done really well, but that's like one part where I'm like a little lazy on this character interaction that is kind of your foundation for everything.
Yeah. That makes sense. Seeing a little bit more of like the fallout.
Yeah.
And whatnot. Yeah.
This isn't necessarily a qualm, but I was not aware that there were going to be time jumps. So first time it happened, I was like, what the fuck? What is going on?
Wait a minute.
Got here so fast. So I just and then watching Jashana's recap videos, and you mentioned that there was going to be another one, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that's good to know. Because the first time I was like, wait a minute, how did that happen? But one thing that my dad said was that he wished that Rhaenyra had like done more, like that she had, you know, made more decisions. He said he felt like all she really did in this first season was like, you know, she's like trying to keep the peace and whatever, but like she's just having children. And he's like, I want to see her like do something and like make a decision and maybe stir things up a little bit. And I was like,
but just having children? That's such a good thing to say.
Especially in that time period. Did he see the birthing scenes?
I mean, I think I get what he's saying, but I just sorry. Just having it's like that's a whole ordeal.
Yes, it is.
It was a whole ordeal on the show too. My God. Yeah, she didn't really do the political choices and stuff. We didn't get to see that. I mean, I think we're definitely going to moving forward.
I think some of it. I think some of it was probably kind of off screen, which isn't much of a defense of the show because it doesn't allow you to experience it. But there was some hints that like she had done a little bit of political maneuvering, like with that one lord that ended up hanging for her.
Yeah.
You felt like there must have been something going on there, and maybe something got cut as far as maybe what she did to kind of further that relationship. But I agree. I actually do agree with that criticism.
And even when we start episode 6, when she's going to Allison, it felt like she was just there to make sure things didn't deteriorate. Like she was reacting, she wasn't acting. I feel like a lot of this season.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In opposition to Damon, who's always like, let's go, let's do it, let's. And
she's
like,
ready to take action immediately.
Yeah.
That makes sense. How about you, John?
Well, mine is tied to one of my favorite things, which I love that they brought in the Song of Ice and Fire prophecy, because I feel like it allows us to see a lot of things in a different light. Especially, I just reread Aegon's Conquest, and I feel like knowing what we know, we're like, oh, okay. So it's not just like a guy who's power hungry and wants to have all these kingdoms. There's a reason to it. And because of the prophecy and because of how much they bring it up, it's not just like, and he had a dream and it's over. And then I'm like, but then the whole Alicent thing on Viserys' deathbed, where she's like, honey, I got it. Yep. Check. Aegon, king, prince, promise, whatever you're talking about. Okay, let's move on. And I'm like, no. And it's like, in the books, there's more agency. And here, I feel like it's, even for Rhaenyra and stuff, I feel like, or the Aemon scene with Luke, he gets really goaded into it by the Baratheon daughters, and here it's just like he's just going after them, and I feel like a lot of it is like, oh, if only they had controlled the dragons, if only she hadn't misunderstood him. It's a
there's
bit
so many coulda, woulda, shoulda moments.
Yeah, that's a lot of world history too, which is also annoying. It's like, how did these 5 individuals get to decide World War I started? Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Go back in time.
Yeah, as much as I love the prophecy bit, I'm like, but no, she misinterpreted just because she wanted to hear what she wanted to hear. So
Also, they could just use more names, like truly.
Why does everyone have to be Aegon? Yeah,
they recycle names a lot. They do. The Targaryens love to reuse the names.
It's A's and R's for days.
Yep. I have kind of 2 qualms. One is like a specific scene I kind of didn't like, and one is kind of like a direction they went. So I'll go with the direction first. Really wish they had kept Rhaenyra as fat. In the books, adult Rhaenyra is described as being thick, and I wish they had kept it, because I think one of the strongest elements when you read George's books is how oftentimes characters who are fat, disabled, and have deformities are allowed to have really heroic moments and take center stage. And for all the like stuff that they go through, there's some really awesome moments that you just don't see a whole lot of in other fantasies. And I just think it stripped some layers of complexity that was in Rhaenyra's character in the book, and it would have been better. And I really didn't like, there was an interview I saw with one of the writers where she was talking about like, oh, it was men who wrote the histories, and so how do we even know? It sounds like they were just trying to insult her by calling her fat. I'm like, okay, so there's some things to unpack with what you just said here. There are a lot of rumors in Fire and Blood, that's true, but the physical descriptions of what people probably looked like probably were not up for much historical debate. She probably was fat. And two, like there's this assumption that you just find it insulting. So
and especially in a world like this, replicating kind of our world,
good.
It was seen as like a sign of wealth and everything to like be larger. You were nobility often was. So like in this type of world, it wouldn't have been them trying to insult her anyways. Makes sense on many levels.
Didn't love that. And the HBO has done this repeatedly. I was so mad when Lord Manderley was finally revealed in the HBO series, because Lord Manderley is too fat to sit his horse, but he has like some amazing character moments in the books, especially in A Dance with Dragons. And then we see him in the show, and he was just like a broad-shouldered kind of big dude. And I was like, oh my God, seriously? Like, I was so mad. It's definitely fitting with HBO's direction, which is whatever. But then the one scene I really didn't like, I did not like the foot fetish scene. And it's not that I didn't like the fact that he had some sort of like sexual control over her, or that there was that power dynamic at play, because that was interesting. I did not love the fact that they tied his fetish to his disfigurement. That was ick. Not in the books. Don't know what. I was like, oh, we could have. I feel like there was a way where we could have had an interesting conversation about like the sexual dynamic going on between them without that, which felt a little bit yuck.
I felt like that scene also was just so out of nowhere to me. I never got that vibe. I mean, he was like creepy and kind of always staring at her and smiling, but like I never got any vibe that like something was going on behind the scenes. I just got the vibe that like he's just kind of a weird dude.
The only hint you get is that Otto tells him, you've been spending a lot of time with my daughter.
Yeah. And I just thought like, oh, we've seen him talking. Like maybe he doesn't know that that he's spying for her or something. Like that's what I thought. So then that scene, I was just like, this is just, no kink shaming. It just feels like out of nowhere to me.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like it made a lot of sense. I feel like my biggest qualms were like I didn't mind the time jumps like as a concept, and I feel like overall they did it like well. Everything still developed pretty well, but I do definitely wish that with the 10-year time jump that we had gotten, I don't know if it would have needed to be a whole episode. I mean, it could have been a whole other episode, but like at least like the start of the episode, something to show like the Daemon and Lena relationship a little bit more, and also the Harwin and Rhaenyra a bit more. I thought we were gonna have it because like on Twitter when Chris was like, this guy, who's he? And I was like, oh, you'll see lots more of him because I thought we would, and then nope. Less than one episode basically.
I think I was only prepared for it because during the ballroom scene someone on Twitter pointed out, oh look, he's looking at this one now, and I'm like, oh, does that mean something? Okay.
Yeah, and I just wish we would have gotten to see that a little bit more. I don't know how I wish they would have done it just differently, especially like the Daemon and Lena thing too. I didn't love that in the book he like goes to Driftmark or something and she's betrothed to someone else, and they meet and have like an immediate chemistry connection, and then he eventually kills her betrothed, like in a duel or something, and so that she like I think her family didn't want her to marry the other guy either. It was some like deal that was arranged, and he kills her. And then like Damon and Lena and Rhaenyra have like a really close relationship. Like Lena and Rhaenyra are like besties. Like they're really good friends during that whole marriage. And I'm like, man, I wish we got like something of that. Like, a little something. And then I also kept seeing, I'm like, man, I kind of wish I just wouldn't see these cut clips, like the scenes that are cut from episodes, but I kept seeing them, especially Damon, like consoling his daughters after their mother dies, and like they cut like any kind of sentimentality scenes from him, it seemed like. And I was like, why are we doing this? But I mean, it was their choice, whatever. And that's why I'm like, I wish I just hadn't seen them to know that, like, oh, I could have had that. Because that just, bummed me out a little bit. But I feel like those would be the like only things. Like I said, I didn't like hate the time jumps, but I just wish I'd gotten a little bit more of those couple of characters that I felt like were really, and the relationships were compelling. I thought the relationships that we could have seen were interesting. And it would have been more impactful too when they died, because then it's like, oh, we just met and okay, bye.
It could have been like 2 more episodes long.
Yeah, just a little bit. That would have been nice. But
yeah, because I don't really know what I would cut. Like I'm like trying to think of what felt like, extraneous fat or something. Like, I don't know. Because then also, if you do have the friendship with Damon and them, then when they have their beach scene, you have to rewrite that scene. Because like her whole thing is you left me all on my own. And
yeah, they would have.
But you can rewrite it. It's just that you have to go from a different angle.
Yeah, it was interesting seeing the choices they made though, and like I love that they made Alicent and Rhaenyra like friends.
Yep, great choice.
It just wouldn't have been as compelling if it was how it was in the book, of them like just never really liking each other.
Yes, because then you get to have the Westeros. Oh, they can maybe be friends again. Nope.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yep.
Nope.
It was great. It was great. I'm so freaking hyped for season 2.
Dude,
I'm so excited.
I'm so ready.
I'm so mad that we have to wait.
Days.
Years.
I saw a thing on, I think it was on Instagram or so, and it was like the opening scene is going to be Aemon walking into King's Landing and being, "Mama, I killed the man," like from the song. I was like, yes. I'm so I want to see their reactions. Like, how are they going to react to this? Are they gonna, or is he going to own up to it? Is he going to be like, "Yeah, I did it," or is he going to be like, little accident here. Didn't control.
I saw a lot of people so mad about that scene and that the dragons like took over. I was like, I get it, but I don't know. I think it made sense, and we had foreshadowing to this.
Yeah.
Like in the first episode, Viserys saying like, us controlling them is an illusion. We never should have messed with this power that like we can't control. And so I was like, I don't feel like it came out of nowhere. It was a change.
Didn't control Drogon.
Yeah, exactly.
What is it in the book? Everyone on the internet was very angry, and as a show only person, I was like, this is fine. I'm confused.
Yeah, he gets like goaded on, like I think Joanna was saying, like by the Baratheon like girls like egging him on, like, oh yeah, you should go, and then like chases him. It's very like malicious intent.
But the thing is,
that way.
They're the only ones in the air. You don't know.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's all just the rumors. Yeah,
but also like them being rough with each other has been well established for like 4
exactly.
episodes. Like them,
it could be the same. We don't know.
Like we literally lost eyes already. Like these children are violent with each other.
Yeah. And I feel like it makes sense too for Aemon's.
Sorry, from what I was seeing as well, that people were angry at Vhagar at doing it. I'm like, he's more dragon.
He's a dragon.
He's like more dragon. If she's gonna get provoked, she's gonna go for it.
She's also, didn't Eric's like shoot fire in her face for a second, and then she's gonna be pissed. She's a fucking dragon. Like, what do you expect?
The best memes I was seeing were the ones where it was like where it was Vhagar. She was like, "We did it, Visenya. We conquered Dorne."
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
She's had only violent riders except for Lena, so that's also something you need to keep in mind. Like Vhagar has only had riders that are like fuck around and find out, except for Lena. So
I do also wish that we had seen more of Lena with Vhagar.
Yeah.
Completely glossed over.
Yes.
By the way, coming back to qualms, I have one that I thought of. It's that scene when Lena and Damon are riding the dragons, and then Damon flies through the fire, and I'm like, but Targaryens aren't immune to
Not
fire.
very
Thank you.
true.
Thank you. This has been driving me nuts ever since
You
HBO
too?
has just decided to go with this. I'm like,
Yeah.
the reason she survived the fire was a very specific blood
It
magic.
was blood magic. Yeah, not that they're immune to... And then, like,
Yeah.
Lena dies by fire that night, and she's a Targaryen, so it's like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't
Yeah.
make sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
maybe, I'm going to just do pseudoscience. It's probably not real, but maybe because of the atmosphere in the air, like, it doesn't really catch. You know, it's kind of like with liquid nitrogen's so cold, it should burn you, but it evaporates so quickly it doesn't. So we're going to say that the situation...
Elevation.
Okay.
We'll go with
I'll
that.
trust you, Angela.
Pseudoscience, not real. Pseudo.
We'll go with that. We'll go with that.
I have a question.
Oh yeah.
For those of you that have read the book. So like, well, the second book doesn't have a release date, right? The second Fire and Blood book.
No.
No, but the Dance of the Dragons is fully covered in
over.
volume
In
1.
the, okay. Yeah, that was going to be my question. Like, where in the book?
Yeah, if you've read Fire and Blood, you know how all of this, where it's all
I was
going.
about to say, is there supposed to be a second book? I thought this was a complete thought.
No,
this is part 1.
Volume 1 goes right up to like a bit after the Dance of the Dragons like ends, and then Volume 2 is going to go from there up to like, you know, the Mad King.
So do you predict that season 2 will be like all of the Dance of the Dragons, or like?
No, I think they're going to drag it out.
Didn't he say that like it would take 4 seasons at this rate to
Yeah.
do that one book?
Okay.
I do think I have an idea where they could end season 2, but then I was thinking, where would they end season 3? And you know, like, just I'm trying to think. So
yeah, it's
now I'm a little more apprehensive because I thought we had all the information. I was very excited that we had a thing with all the information.
Well, you do for the dance.
You do, yeah.
Okay, for the, at least
Volume 1 covers fully the dance, the whole Dance of the
Yep.
Dragons, and then a little bit after. Yeah,
You
we
know,
have the source material.
I know George is working on Winds of Winter. I know I'm not shaming him as an author, whatever. It's just I've been burned, literally.
Yeah.
Like,
Really?
Yes. I had another qualm that I thought of, and then I lost it. Dang it. Oh, man.
not a qualm, but a thing that made me rage. Like, it's not a favorite moment, but it was like a angry moment. Was the eye scene where they had these children, and first of all, Aemon really shouldn't have taken their mother's dragon. That was mean. It was very cruel and mean.
That was mean.
And then their reaction was proportional to his, and then he had an unproportional reaction, and it was this whole thing. And then he tries to act like he didn't start it. And like when they were talking to the adults, and I hate when children lie.
Man.
This all comes down to like my visceral hatred of when children are cruel and mean.
Well, in his defense, Bela, I think, threw the first punch.
He stole the dragon.
Smash Jacaerys' head in with a rock.
Yeah, the fact that the rock never got brought up was funny to me. I was like, he was threatening to kill these kids.
Yeah, if I was one of those kids, I would have been like, "Excuse me."
I was just so angry, but like, thankfully Viserys just knows my family's a mess. No, you guys are all at fault. I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
It definitely had a lot of parallels to the scene in Game of Thrones when Cersei is demanding the wolf be killed.
Yeah.
Have another wolf.
Yeah.
Which was another scene that I hated reading and watching.
Yeah.
Always.
Not good. Not good. Oh, I remembered my qualm. Another qualm I had is after watching people, because of course I'm watching everybody react to House of the Dragon also. And I'm like realizing that they didn't make, to me, in my opinion, I don't think they made it obvious and clear enough that this whole Targaryen incest thing is very normal. Because I had so many people being like, what? Oh my God. And I'm like, dude, literally Viserys and Daemon's parents were brother and sister, and Emma was his cousin. And like, this is just like, they're all related. This is very like normal.
I think
like,
that was one of the times where they took like, you watched Game of Thrones, right? We're assuming you know Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Because like with the Daemon and Rhaenyra, like so many people being like, well, everyone's so mad because it's incest. I'm like, no, that's not why they're mad about it.
I remember Jashana's video after like the brothel scene. You're like, you guys are mad now, but it's gonna get worse.
Yeah.
And it's also like, I think people forget in like our own medieval history, like marrying people who are close to you in your family was like a fairly common practice.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's not genetically sound per se, and it's kind of weird and gross to me and my ideas and culture, but like it's a common thing.
Did you?
Yeah, I wish they had made it like more clear. That, like, no, this is the incest of it all isn't what everybody's big issue is.
No.
I wish
'Cause
more of the
Targaryens are-
Valyrians were main characters. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I felt
Yeah.
like every Valyrian except Rhaenys was a side character.
Yeah.
Mhm. I hope we
And-
get to see more, like, I don't know, screen
sure
time or
we will.
like more agency, I guess, with like the girls too,
Yeah, me
especially
too.
Yeah.
like Baela.
Baela
Like,
and
they were
Rhaena
all
are
very well
definitely-
done, and they did what they could with the scripts they were given, but like all of them were not the main event, I guess, and I just
Yeah.
wish they were more focused or highlighted in any way.
Yeah, it was more about Rhaenyra and Alicent this first
Yeah.
season for
But
sure.
I found that those like step brother cousin like that's Jake and Rhaena and Luke and Bela, or no, opposites, whatever, them, like the four of them, they were so cute.
So
Like
adorable.
they were like, oh, we're gonna get married and he's my cousin but also my stepbrother, but it doesn't matter. And it's like, oh yes, you guys are so precious.
That's when like Bela was telling Luke that like he would be a great Lord of the Tides. I'm like, he won't.
No,
be,
he
but I-
won't.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's really sweet. Oh, love
Yeah.
it.
Oh man, the last episode was so when Rhaenyra's so
terrible.
nice to Luke and being such a good
Oh.
mom.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
God.
no,
Like,
that's
I'm
what
not
I
as
wanted to say
perfect.
earlier.
That's
That's
like
what
the
I'm-
minute, like if you don't
Yeah.
know the book or the internet or whatever, that's the minute you know, oh, they're killing this kid. It's over.
In a sweet moment with his mom, he's gonna
Yeah.
die.
Listen, I know the tells of Westeros now. I know.
I saw someone put a compilation of like all the scenes where they were next to each other and she was holding his hand, and like because she was just always, and he was like holding her hand, and she was, and I was like, oh.
Like
So
I
sad.
knew it was going to happen, and I was still like in tears at the end of the
Yeah.
episode, like sobbing. Like I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
So sad. So sad.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've been going at it for almost an hour and a half now, so I guess we can start wrapping things up. Unless anyone has any final stuff. I mean, there's bunches more we could talk about for ever probably, but
I just have a
Aegon
question
claiming
for you.
Vagar. That was good. Continue. Ask your question.
Shoshana, are you gonna finish reading A Song of Ice and Fire?
oh yeah, I plan to for sure.
She's been saying that since I followed her channel.
No, I want to because I was watching the show when I started. I was like the season 7 or 8 was like happening when I started like the first 2 books. And I read them, but I listened to them on audio before I learned about myself that listening to high fantasy on audio.
Also,
for a
that
first
narrator's
read
horrible.
is
That
bad.
narrator is objectively bad.
Pater
What?
Pater
What?
Baelish. I cannot with Pater Baelish that he keeps saying. I'm like, I can't.
You're.
That's not his name.
I also hate Michael Kramer. Just come for me.
What?
I hate Michael Kramer too. But Roy
Oh, I
Detrice.
I just
I
know a
love
lot
Michael
of people
Kramer.
hate him as a narrator of the series.
I love
That's
Roy Detrice.
I just
The-
can't listen to like for the first time reading a high fantasy book
Yeah,
like
I
that
can't either.
complex audio. I was like, I got to book 3 and I stopped because I was like, I'm lost. I need to just start
I'm-
over at some point. And then I was just waiting until the show was done. And then I had a little bad taste in my mouth for a minute, and I was like,
I'm
you
just
know,
so sad you stopped at book 3 because book 3 is going to be
Oh,
your favorite.
it
I
is.
know
It's
that's.
sad
I
for
was
you.
like, I
That one
don't
is
want
so
to like
good.
have this bad experience and
I'm-
like end up feeling like
Book
"Ugh, I
3
don't
is
like this."
fire. As someone who's lukewarm on all of this, book 3 is absolute fire.
I'm
It's
in the
so
middle
good.
of
A high compliment coming from Angela.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of my reread of book 3 right now, and I'm like almost done with it. I got like 200 pages left, and I'm like just flying through it. It's
Yeah.
It's
so
so
good.
well paced. I'm like, why can't you do this always, George?
Yeah.
It's just the culmination of like so many plot beats. Like just it's brilliant.
So
Yeah,
Chris and
I
Angela-
want to start it again next year. I also
Well,
like
Yeah,
have been
she's-
putting it off
Dawn's
because
doing a
Yeah, I'm
read
doing a
along.
read along with some people, and we're actually doing a live show tonight on Joanna's channel. So it's Joanna, Jolene, Alex from Tall Guy Reads, and Scott, the Bald Booktuber. We're all doing it. So
nice.
Oh, there you
maybe,
go.
maybe I'll join along. But yeah, I also have been putting it off because I'm like, I'm gonna read all these books and then never get the next one.
I have
so,
faith. I have faith.
75%
read
wins of winter.
To this point, but I
75%.
think he's excited that people like his world again, and I think that does
Yes.
help artists. I do think that feeds energy. We all create YouTube videos. We know we're more likely to make a video if people like things we've put out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
Good luck getting that last book, guys.
I know.
I know. I was
You
going to say,
know?
like, I think House of the Dragon has made me realize that because before House of the Dragon, I was like, oh, I don't care if book 6 or 7 ever come out. I'm not reading them. I'm done. I'm over it. And now I'm like, okay, if he
Yeah.
finishes it all, I will
I
reread
will.
and go all the way to the end. If it's all finished, I'm not going to give Winds of Winter. No, it's the whole thing. It's everything or nothing.
Everything.
How many books are there supposed to be?
7.
7.
Is this the
There's
last
5.
Oh,
and apparently Winds of Winter is going to be longer than Dance of Dragons, which was already overwritten, but whatever.
Y'all got it.
Editors go out the window when you get a certain level of popularity.
It's just like you can feel that his brain doesn't know how to put the threads together, and it's frustrating to feel as a reader.
Come on. How does everybody, before we go, how does everybody feel about the other like prequels and the sequel that has been?
I'm gonna wait for Chris and you to tell me if I should watch them.
Do we need a Jon Snow? I don't
want Jon Snow.
I don't want a Jon Snow sequel. I don't want a sequel, I don't think, at all, unless he finishes the series and we can go based off of that source material.
Yeah.
And Jon Snow was never my favorite.
Oh, I love Jon.
I
did love Jon. But like not as why
and what he's just dinking around up north of the wall. What am I assume they're gonna like do something and bring him back down south of the wall, probably.
I will like the Jon Snow sequel or whatever if it actually does the cool mystical world building lore that I haven't really gotten satisfied for in both the books or the shows.
Yeah.
But I'm going to wait till people tell me if it's good TV or not, because that's where I'm at. Is like if it's.
I mean, I trust that it'll be good TV because like HBO is just continuing to knock it out of the park. Like, I just don't know if it'll be
anything to care about.
I don't want Jon Snow sequel. I don't know. Not with my relationship with the source
HBO just
material.
canceled Westworld, which made me sad, but because they aren't good at finishing some things.
I'm very excited for other prequels because they do have like the source material, and because of like the World of Ice and Fire, like, oh my god, there's just so much. There's so much that they could over an Essos, like
I want the Nymeria prequel.
Like,
what do you want? Sorry, Chris.
Aren't they talking about doing the Nymeria thing?
Yeah, they were at least.
Yeah. That's the one I want.
That would be really cool.
I want Aegon's Conquest.
Yeah, I would love Robert's Rebellion.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, I want Rhaegar Targaryen.
Yeah. Oh, God. I would simp so hard.
That's what I'm saying. If I remember right, he's supposed to be very attractive.
But Aegon too, so I'm like, okay, I'm ready.
Which I also think it brings it back to Chris's point. And very rarely do I remember in the book when someone's mentioned to be attractive or not, and like he was mentioned multiple times by George about how attractive he is.
Rhaegar Targaryen.
Yeah, I would love that. Or like the First Men, or like the children in the First Men, like something with
give
that,
me the
or like the Long Night
of like the origin story of this world before the humans got to do stuff. Sure, I'd do that.
Before the Andals came.
The Doom of Valyria, Duncan Egg. I want it all. Like, just come on, HBO, let's go.
All the prequels, I will take them. The sequels, I'm like,
same.
I don't know.
I want Summerhall. I want to know what happened at Summerhall.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need to know what happened at Summerhall.
That would be cool. There's so much potential. We'll see what happens. But I mean, I feel like they're probably going to be greenlighting several since House of the Dragon has been.
But what if we die before they finish it all? That would be so sad.
When are you planning to die?
Sorry, I don't know. You know me. You should know this about me. I'm always thinking I will die before anything is finished. Well, maybe before Winds of Winter comes out.
Oh, it's too
funny. I'm just like, what if I die?
Meanwhile, I take it like I take the Cosmere. I'm like, I got 20 years where it's just going to keep happening and it's never going to end, and I'm fine.
And I'm like, what if I never see the end of the Cosmere?
Living here.
You'll never see the end. That's what'll happen. That's the answer.
That's sad.
Actually, my mom says the same thing about Cosmere. She's like, I'll be dead. I'm like, oh,
that's what my stepdad says all the time, and he is in his late 50s. So I'm like, I guess maybe.
I hope you don't say that to him.
Like, I don't want it, but I guess that puts him in his 80s, and that's always an iffy point. Like,
oh my god, too freaking funny.
Oh gosh. On that note,
yeah, right. And on a happy note. No, thank you guys for joining. Very much appreciated. Just chat and gush about something we all love. Yay.
Yeah, it's nice to be in our little bubble if everyone agrees about everything.
Yes, I'm so glad there's no Team Green here.
We're just like, this is all wonderful. Yay. I'm just so excited for the future seasons. And I just hope they continue to do well and that they keep to having it like be a succinct thing and they end it well. And I don't think they will because they do have the source material and everything.
Yeah.
So all the fingers crossed, but All right, well, that will be all for now. So again, thank you all, and thank you to our audience. Let us know your answers to the little prompts down below if you'd like, of course. And if you disagree with us, I mean, you're not going to change our minds, but feel free to disagree. And that is also, have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.